The clock on TD Garden's giant scoreboard flickers past 18 minutes, 28 seconds of the third. Milan Lucic has just bowled his way to the net and jammed the puck home, igniting a roar that rattles the rafters. Boston's bench erupts, and every Bruin in the building can taste a winner-take-all Game 7. 90 seconds, that's all that separates a city still healing under the Boston Strong banner from another night of hope. But 90 seconds in playoff hockey can stretch into forever, and on 24th June 2013, forever was just long enough for fate to flip the script twice. What followed, 17 breath-snatching seconds of chaos, didn't merely swing a series, it rewrote the sport's modern mythology and became a cautionary tale coaches still whisper during every late-game timeout. The story's fuse was lit months earlier when an icy labor showdown froze the league and shrank the 2012-13 calendar to a frantic 48 games. Boards that usually echoed with preseason scrimmages in September stayed silent until mid-January, and players crammed a year's worth of hits, heartbreak, and heroics into a sprint no one had trained for. While most clubs staggered out of the gate, Chicago ripped off an NHL record 21-0-3 streak, sitting undefeated past Valentine's Day and turning every night into a traveling carnival of speed and swagger that seemed absurd under the time crunch circumstances. Boston started almost as confidently at 26-9-4, but in early April their offense hit the skids, sinking from nearly 3 goals a night to barely 2. Then came Marathon Monday. Explosions rocked Boylston Street and suddenly hockey felt insignificant, until the Bruins returned home to an arena draped in hand-painted banners that screamed Boston Strong. The tragedy welded city and team together, and every subsequent home game felt more like a vigil than a sporting event. Compressed calendar, raw emotion, and razor-thin margins, conditions were perfect for fireworks. Drama, after all, never leaves business unfinished. If any roster knew how to weaponize raw emotion, it was Claude Julien's Bruins. In round 1, they stared down the Maple Leafs in a Game 7 that still haunts Toronto. Trailing 4-1 with less than 12 minutes left, Boston punched in 3 goals over 10 white-knuckled minutes, then watched Patrice Bergeron bury the overtime winner that detonated the Garden. The comeback hardened their identity. No deficit was permanent if you kept skating. They bulldozed the Rangers in 5 and proceeded to smother Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, limiting Pittsburgh to 2 meager goals across 4 games by clogging the middle and exploiting Zdeno Chara's skyscraper wingspan. In net, Tuukka Rask turned routine gloves into theater, snagging pucks that seemed destined for twine. Boston's ethos was brutal simplicity: choke the neutral zone, own the boards, and if the game drifted toward darkness, summon one last surge. Having already conjured miracles, they had every reason to believe one more was always in stock, until destiny skated in wearing red and black. Across the ice waited a group that treated pressure like oxygen. Chicago's core. Jonathan Toews as Captain Metronome, Patrick Kane as stick-handling sorcerer, Duncan Keith clocking half an hour a night, and Marian Hossa, still a two-way terror, had tasted champagne in 2010 and wanted another vintage. Their record-setting start morphed into a President's Trophy cruise, but adversity crashed the party in round 2 when Detroit shoved them into a 3-1 ditch. Game 7 nearly ended on Nicholas Hjalmarsson's cannon, but a whistle for coincidental roughing erased the would-be winner. In overtime, Brent Seabrook set things right, skittering a shot off the far post and in, rebooting Chicago's season on the spot. 1 round later, Kane filleted the defending champ Kings with an extra period hat trick, punctuating the night by twirling his glove in the Los Angeles air like a matador. More than talented, the Blackhawks were unflappable. They waited for the tiniest fissure and then detonated it. When 2 clubs so comfortable in chaos collide, somebody's heart inevitably ends up on the ice. Game 1 of the final stretched into triple overtime, the kind of marathon that leaves both benches sucking down smelling salts. Chicago finally cracked Rask on its 63rd shot. 2 nights later, Boston endured a 19-shot first period and flipped the script in overtime. Rask answered back with a 2-0 shutout in Game 3. Then Game 4 evolved into an 11-goal circus. Brent Seabrook again providing extra time fireworks to square the series. Joel Quenneville and Claude Julien adjusted like grandmasters, line matching at every whistle and spring-loading secret combinations. Kane's 2-goal outburst in Game 5 nudged Chicago to a 3-2 series edge, forcing the Bruins to defend their season on home ice. 58 minutes into Game 6, they seemed poised to do exactly that, yet history has a wicked sense of timing, and what looked like a final chapter was little more than a comma. From the first draw, Boston's forwards looked determined to turn every Blackhawk breakout into a car crash. Lucic repeatedly barreled over defenders, Brad Marchand chirped and whacked at ankles, and Kara loomed like a street lamp, denying daylight down the boards. Despite 4 Bruins power plays and a barrage of cycle pressure shifts, Corey Crawford's glove kept Chicago afloat. Still, late in the second, a rare Kara pinch left the back door ajar long enough for Toes to cruise in, wrap the puck around Rask's pads, and hush the crowd. Unfazed, Boston doubled down on its forecheck, finally cracking Crawford when Lucic swatted a rogue rebound home with 7:49 remaining. TD Garden threatened to shear its own roof as Julian rolled his lines like a blackjack dealer daring the table to bust. But somewhere inside Chicago's bench, Quenneville waited for a spark, knowing one touch from Kane or Toes could vaporize all that momentum. With 1:30 left, Crawford lunged for the bench, sacrificing the crease for one last gamble. Patrick Kane refused the safest play, a dump and chase, pivoting through 2 Bruins at the blue line, and firing a low shot that ricocheted into the near corner. Instead of bailing out, Kane stapled himself to the boards, sealing the escape route. Jonathan Toes arrived next, fishing the puck free while Duncan Keith pinched down from the point, a calculated risk forged by a season of green light instincts. Boston's attempted clearance clanged off shin pads, the puck swung behind the cage, and Toes feathered a haunted house pass through the slot to Brian Bickle, who tapped it home at 18:44. Garden gasped. Doc Emmerich's broadcast voice barely had time to warn viewers that 70 seconds still remained before Chicago pressed again. Keith's seeing-eye wrister kissed iron, dropped behind Rask, and Dave Bolland, swinging a stick later revealed to be cracked near the heel, jammed it across the line at 19:01. 17 seconds, 2 goals, 1 dynasty revived, 1 dream reduced to rubble. Even before the scoreboard updated, Quenneville's mustache was airborne in celebration, while Boston's bench stared into middle distance, trying to process how the universe had upended itself in the blink of an eye. Rask sprinted to the bench for an extra attacker, but Chicago's 5-man phalanx barricaded the slot, and the horn at last condemned Boston to the cruelest defeat of its modern era. The Blackhawks' second cup in 4 seasons stamped them as the NHL's team of the decade, a reputation further burnished by a 3rd triumph in 2015. For Boston, the aftershocks were immediate. Less than 2 weeks later, management sent 21-year-old phenom Tyler Seguin to Dallas, a move many traced back to cap stress amplified by the new collective bargaining agreement and an urgent desire to recalibrate after their late game collapse. Players speak of a heavy quiet that lingered all summer, the echo of phantom cheers they couldn't silence. Around the league, coaches began citing the 17-second rule. Never manage the clock, manage the puck. Nowadays, when teams yank their goalie with more than 2 minutes left, they're channeling Quenneville's audacious blueprint from that night. Every late-game timeout film room features at least one clip from those fateful moments, a living reminder that security is an illusion once desperation hits the ice. Dave Bolland never forgot the oddity of his cup-winning stick. During the post-game scrum, he noticed a hairline crack near the blade's heel. A fracture trainers believe softened the rebound just enough for his tap-in to settle instead of skittering away. He kept the splintered twig on his mantle as a reminder that destiny sometimes needs defective lumber. Across the rink, Patrice Bergeron fought through torn rib cartilage, a separated shoulder, and a punctured lung. Trainers debated double-shifting him in the last 90 seconds, but ruled the pain too savage, a decision that still wakes Boston fans at night. Data analysts later traced a sharp league-wide jump in early goalie pulls to Chicago's gamble, while broadcast crews began flashing countdown graphics the moment a netminder so much as peeked at his bench. Even the NHL's hockey ops department quietly studied whether to tweak timeout rules because coaches suddenly burned them earlier to set up 6-on-5 plays. And then there's the branch timeline question. If Hjalmarsson's Game 7 goal against Detroit isn't waved off, the Blackhawks might be shaking hands in May. Boston could be squaring off with Los Angeles, and 17 seconds becomes just another countdown to a face-off. Hockey history often pivots on chance, but rarely has the pivot been so swift, so brutal, and so instructive. A living seminar on how a single heartbeat can redraw an entire sports strategy map. From Lucic's Thunderbolt to Bickle's Equalizer to Ballin's Dagger, the 2013 Stanley Cup Final distilled the cruelty and wonder of hockey into half a heartbeat. 17 seconds proved that legacies can pivot on a single bounce, that dynasties are born in bedlam, and that no lead, no matter how late, feels safe once the playoff gods decide otherwise. Even now, coaches cue up that clip on day 1 of camp, warning fresh faces that a single lazy clear or fearless pinch can flip a season. Analytics departments crunch empty net odds, but numbers can't chart the instant an arena's roar turns to stunned silence. So the next time you see a timeout with 2 minutes left, watch the eyes on every bench. Some burn with belief, others cloud with memories of Boston's vanished sure thing. Now we want yours. Drop a comment with the most jaw-dropping momentum swing you've ever witnessed in hockey, sport, or life. Because on any stage, the divide between triumph and torment might be only 17 seconds.